Hey, I'm Mark LaPere with Green Global Real Estate Education Network. Thanks for coming. Thanks for tuning in. This is a live broadcast to anybody, anywhere that has internet. So if you have friends that can't make it through traffic or in a different city, you're welcome to give them the link and they can watch this and actually talk live from anywhere. Doc is actually driving back from Dallas. He's passing Pensacola right now, watching on his cellular phone. So I'm not going to get into a whole lot of personal education today, but we are going to show you what Green is about really quick. We're going to show you some of the speakers that we have, and we're ready to kick up Green 3.0 very quickly here. We're going to reboot and basically start doing this better, faster, and more efficiently. Marcus, if you could put that on. I just want to say who some of our speakers are. We have a pretty impressive list. There's Bill Crowley, there's credit repair. There's Larry Cox right there. There's John coming in the door. There's Kathy Brodine in the back. And there's Patty Ketchum. She's out of Florida. She teaches the Florida Board of Real Estate. Jeremy Taylor teaches real estate. Michelle teaches sales. Sharon's out of West Palm Beach. Susan teaches some real estate classes. There's Steve at the auction house. Maddie does the short sale. On hiatus now. We do notes. I do snowboarding down real estate. Tim Hicks does home inspections. There's Paulie, one of the best flippers in this city. Dave is going to be coming here talking about systems. Larry Simons, my old brother from Florida. So we have a quite a wide range of education that comes through here. They teach everything from basically auctions to zoning laws. And we'd like to thank all these guys and girls for teaching for us. Actually, they're teaching for themselves. They all have their own business, 1031 exchange. Like John there has self-directed IRA and his daughter Megan there. Larry has his own brokerage. Tom Rakowski up on the screen does life insurance. So we have a pretty nice group of people here that open up a lot of doors. Anyway, I am not going to delay this anymore. A lot of people in traffic, but we're going to continue on. So Marcus, if you can cut that down, and I'm going to talk about last week. Trish came up here and gave us an introduction to what she does in title searches, title repairs, and now she's going to hit her second half of that with some common problems or maybe some uncommon problems that we come across, how to fix them, why we should have checked beforehand, because title problems can cause a lot of money when you don't properly prepare. And it's a very simple task to have one of these people in your pocket that you can call quickly. Steve, I know, calls daily because he goes to the auctions daily. So does Les. You need somebody on your side that can handle some pretty fast-moving business. So I'm going to bring up Tish Baldwin, Esquire, from, what's this? H little?
MLJ.
MLJ.
Hey.
Thanks, Trish.
Hey, good to be here. Hey again, everybody. I'm a title nerd. I like to call myself that. I love title, everything about it. And tonight is part 2. I have to say, had a great time last week, met a lot of great folks. Looking forward to meeting, getting to know you even better. Kathy and I had coffee this morning, and don't let the name fool you, but we had lavender coffee. Not bad. Unusual, but not bad. I don't know if we'll have it again, but it was nice to get to know her, and I look forward to getting to know everybody. Well, let's get down to it. My main topic is title insurance. Why title insurance? And to recap what we did last week, first I started out with some jokes. I've got some new ones. Okay. Everybody likes attorney's jokes, right? Mm-hmm. And we can tell you the kids in this one though. So, as a lawyer awoke from surgery, he asked, "Why are all the blinds drawn?" The nurse answered, "There's a fire across the street and we didn't want you to think you died." Sorry, I wasn't saying it over the thing. At the Convention of Biological Sciences, one researcher remarks to another, "Did you know that in our lab we have switched from mice to lawyers for our experiments?" Really? The other one says, "Why did you switch?" "Well, for 3 reasons. First, we found that lawyers are far more plentiful. Second, the lab assistants don't get so attached to them. And thirdly, there's just some things a rat won't do." Okay, enough of the jokes. Let's get down to business with title. All right, title insurance. We talked about kind of the good, bad, and the ugly. Title insurance, and I'm a professional. I've been doing this for 26 years. I've done all types of transactions, commercial, residential. I've helped people, investors, with their investment deals. I've done 1031 exchanges, and there's always title issues. It seems to me you can't get around them. You just have to find a way and find a way to be creative to try to resolve them. And the best way to do that is, Kathy and I were talking, the best way to do that is if you have any issues or any questions, is you need, like you said, somebody to reach out to say, "Hey, I need to have somebody take a quick look at this one to see if there's anything special or anything weird or anything unusual or something bad that I need to know before I get involved anymore with this property." And we have a title searcher. I trained him many years ago, and he does that for us. He does a quick look and says, "Okay, yep, this person does own it. Yep, there's one mortgage. There's no second. You're good. Taxes are paid," or, "Oh, taxes aren't paid. Oh, there's a tax lien." So we always offer that to our folks. We also can do some preliminary settlement statements if you want to know what somebody could be bringing to the table to purchase, or somebody that could be selling. A lot of times lenders like to know, hey, how much are they netting? To know how much they can, buy for if they're selling and buying. There's a lot of things that we offer. We're available 24/7. I was telling Kathy today that I get calls at night, on the weekend, and even on holidays. And I always answer my phone. If I don't answer your phone, I'm on the phone with somebody else, but I will call you back. And that's the reason. And the reason is because if you need somebody, you need them now. You don't need them tomorrow. You don't need them on Monday morning. You need them on Saturday when you're looking at something. If it's a good deal, if it's not a good deal, if there's a problem, you move on. So my job, and a title person's job, in my opinion, is to help you see problems and help you solve problems. It's called title curative. That title is what you were saying, repair. I like that. I may have to use that from now on. So title insurance is a product that title insurance companies always offer to give somebody a peace of mind, some security in knowing that what they've just purchased, you've got a title insurance company that will stand behind them and say, nobody can come and knock on your door and say that my Aunt Bertha left me this in her will 10 years ago, I want my share. Or somebody can't say, hey, somebody's foreclosing on that property because no lien didn't get paid and they're taking it back. Or somebody signed for somebody else because of forgery. I had some handouts last week, and if you need some handouts, I'd be glad to give them to you now, or I can give them to you after we talk, to help you better understand the comparison. Anytime that you have a lender involved, I would say 97, 98% of the time, the lender or the bank is going to require a lender's policy anyway. So for a little bit more money and one more premium, the owner's protected too. And you think, well, if the lender's protected, I'm protected. No. There's a lender's policy that protects the lender, and an owner's policy that protects the owner. The two never cross over because the insured is different. We also talked about last week the differences between insurance policies and help somebody understand. They understand homeowners insurance. They understand car insurance. Well, why title insurance? We look at the past and we do a chain of title to see who all is on the property, making sure that everybody signed on the dotted line to convey title to the next person and to the next person and to the next person. The 30-year usually for a residential and a 40 plus, sometimes a 60 plus for a commercial, depends on the situation and the type of property. So we go, okay, we've looked at this, title's good, we'll insure it. Now after the day that you buy and that deed is recorded in your name, that insurance policy, that doesn't protect out here unless there's a problem back here. It protects you for the life of the life that you own the property, and if you convey by warranty deed, if you ever sell, in a lot of ways, it'll protect you beyond that. You got to do it right. You got to do it by warranty deed. A homeowner's policy protects from the future. Okay. Car insurance protects from the future. You don't want to have a car accident, but you protect yourself from it. You hadn't had one in the past. Of course, a car insurance policy won't cover a past wreck. They cover a future wreck. Same with homeowners. So if you think about it that way, the title protects your past, making sure nobody can come and knock on your door or foreclose on an old lien that was never released. That's got you back. Homeowners and car insurance is your future. That's the best way I know how to explain it. And when I say that, people go, oh, got it. I handed out a title commitment to let you know what one looks like. It's a title report. This is what we give to the buyer and to the lender. All it does is state who owns the property, the legal description, who the new people are going to be. Page 2 is the requirements of what we have to do to insure title. Because a commitment is a commitment to insure. And then when everything is recorded, a final policy is issued. These are the things. If there's old liens that need to be released, paid off, or we got to find releases to make sure they do, pay some back taxes, get payoffs from federal tax liens, state tax liens. That's what our job is. That's what we have to do to insure title. The back page, you'll see it again on your policy, because pages 1 and 3 is basically your policy once it's said and done. Page 2 won't be there. That's the requirements. That's the things that we have to do, that we have to cross those T's and dot those I's to make sure that the person that says they own the property really owns the property with no issue. Or we tried it. There's always human error. And that's what we're ensuring. We're trying to reduce the risk, to make sure that the buyer has good, valid title, and a lender has a good lien on the property. But there's always human error, and that's why title insurance. We talked last week about common names. There's also names that's very long. So if you transpose some numbers, or the register does when they index the property, and they cross over names, when a searcher goes to search it next time, and they put it the way it's supposed to be on the deed, or the owner's name, and the register has misindexed that, you can't find it. You have to do a reasonable search. Now, what I've always said to my searchers and everybody is, if you have a name and you have multiple ways you could spell a name, let's see, what would that be? Jimmy. It could be James. Jim. Jimmy with a Y. Jimmy with an I. Jimmy with an IE. Different ways that we have to make sure, and we have to think outside the box a little bit, just to make sure we cover everything. A previous creditor may have called him Jimmy with an I. You got an E on the end of it. We talked about Green with an E and without an E. Smith with a Y or an I or an E at the end or whatever. We try to think outside the box to make sure we gather all the information and all the possible ways that it could be to make sure that we cross off everything. Now with common names, James Smith is a very common name. Well, if we have a judgment on a James Smith, we've got to find out if it's him or not. So those are the requirements. The exceptions to coverage on the back page you will find again on your policy, which we didn't talk about. Being on the final policy are the exceptions. Like if you have a right-of-way or an easement that runs with the land, it goes along with it. It doesn't go away. Restricted covenants that says, hey, there's certain things you cannot do with your property. You can't put a pink polka dotted mailbox up there or a camouflage mailbox. And if you do, you're in violation. Well, that's It's a restricted covenant, runs with the land. You've got to adhere to those restrictions. Another thing that it doesn't cover is acreage. So if you have a legal description, like a meets and bounds, it's like 2 pages long. We're talking about pages, how long the legal descriptions can be. Never insure acreage, actual acreage. So if you have a legal description that says 7.25679 acres, title insurance does not cover and does not protect that you have exactly that amount of acreage. No policy does. Charters, easements, master deeds, things that run with the land, things that are on there. They will forever run with the land, so those are things that are exceptions to coverage. So, the commitment I showed you last week, the policy will come to you after closing, 3 or 4 weeks in the mail, and it'll have a jacket, and it'll have guts, I call it. Pages 1, it says you're the new owner, you're protected. The legal description. Go page 2, we've already done that. And then page 3, things that we just don't cover. And then some of them are very standard, like the easements, restricted covenants, things like that, plats, things that are record on plats. So, be very careful. I tell people this in the closing. Your name as an owner, or however you have it vested, is going to be a public record. If you have a mortgage, it's going to be a public record too. Your note's not going to be recorded, but the mortgage is recorded. All that does is secure the payment of the note. And there's a lot of scammers out there. We've heard about the email frauds, email hacking, and all that, wire fraud, things like that. We do certain things in the title industry to do what we can to minimize that. So I tell people at the closing, hey, as soon as your deed is recorded, the world is going to know you own the property. And if you have a mortgage, they're going to know you have a mortgage. You're going to get some scammers out there that's going to send you a letter. It's going to look very real. It's going to look very legit. Pay $80 to $100. It's very mandatory. It seems mandatory.
It's scary. It's scary.
It is scary.
If you're an average person,
Yep.
I get calls from customers all the time. Well, what is this? I didn't know anything. Why do I have that? Throw it away.
That's right.
And then, a lot of us in this room buy you get them. Well, as soon as we buy enough property, we get them all the time. It's like, we got to stop that. As an industry, we somehow need to shut that down.
Well, the attorney generals across the United States are looking into that. I'm not going to say it's a pure scam, because I think they probably would.
You can get a copy.
Yeah, it's like a couple of bucks.
But it's public record. I mean,
Right.
You don't need it.
Exactly. And if you need a copy of it, you need a certified copy from the register for a couple of dollars a page.
Yeah.
They're charging $80 to $100. And I tell people every time I close, be expecting that. So that way, they won't have any kind of nervousness, because it's going to happen. People are going to be up there and say, hey, pay us $80 to $100 for a certified copy of your deed. You're going to get it from the title company. And I tell them, the real McCoy. The one that's signed by the seller, that's notarized by the notary, everything. And the policy's going to be with it too. You're going to have a letter from me, so don't be alarmed. Like you said, throw that away, unless you just want one. It's an absurd price, but it happens. So, we bought, we've searched, we've closed, everything's recorded. You're the owner. Title issues are going to happen. I've been in claims before. And I was in Florida with claims back in 06, 07, and 08. Ooh, hard times. Lots of claims. The industry needs claims because it justifies the title insurance, because we want people to feel protected, that they didn't buy it for nothing. Because human error is going to happen. There's going to be an old lien out there that just got missed. Something's misindexed. Something's going to happen to where somebody's going to call the underwriter and file a claim. And that's what they're there for. I've seen them. You think that you don't need a policy for somebody that's owned property forever? One of the worst claims that we saw in Florida was between family members. You need it when you think you don't. And luckily that buyer on the title insurance policy. They were protected. Was a legitimate claim, wasn't very large. I remember looking at it, and I said, oh, me, this could have been prevented by the title company. Absolutely. It's a valid claim. It goes through a process to get paid. It's not you submit it, you get a check in a week. It doesn't work that way. Got to go through the channels, got to get files, got to set up, the research got to be made. We've got to submit the file from the agent, research it, look at it, and then we submit the approval. In the meantime, everything will wait that long. That's what matters in their own hands. Yes, it was like Hatfields in the boys, if you know what I mean. It was bad. So I tell people, when it's there, if you hang on, you're going to get paid. But some of the worst ones are the times that you think you don't need title insurance. Good old Farmer Joe down the road, owned that property forever. Well, there was a child that got left out of the will, and it was in a home and been there since he or she, I've never been to he or she, it was about 3 or 4 years old. Their interest never got accounted for. Nobody knew Farmer Joe had that child in that type of hospital. Things rear its ugly head that you never know. Cemeteries. Woo. Railroads. Woo. Old cemeteries you don't see a lot of times, especially Indian burial ground. Things happen. Things you can't even see that are there. They go beyond the records of a 30-year search. That's a reasonable search in the eyes of an underwriter. Things happen. So guess what? Title insurance, I would buy it on any property that I ever buy, and I look at the records. You just never know. Who thinks that you might not need title insurance on a property that's being developed into a new subdivision? Lot 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 20, 50. Nah. Well, another big claim. The builder started on the wrong lot. Started building houses. Oops. About 10 houses into it. I don't know if somebody sold or refinanced. Title company caught it. Big problem. Undo, redo. How many times? Like I said, when you think you don't need it, it's when you do.
Well, I had a question. You do a 30-year search, and somebody moves in or lived there after the 2 years, they lived there 4 years, and something comes up that happened 40 years ago. Does my insurance still cover me?
It goes, usually, I think we talked about this today too, usually the problem rears its ugly head pretty quick. For whatever reason. But like you said, sometimes, and if you think about it, if it's an old lien, and I think this is the reason why the underwriters require 30 years, is because usually you don't have mortgages that old. They buy, sell, pay off. And that's usually the biggest one. There are liens out there. Those are the biggest types of claims, generally. So if you have a 30-year mortgage, and it goes back 40 years, statute of limitations has expired. So we can actually insure over that. The risk is minimal because you have a 30-year mortgage, statute of limitations, you had 10 years, the maximum it could be is 40. So that's generally on a conventional loan, you have a 30-year mortgage or less. So you add 10 years to that, that's why. That's why we only go back.
Isn't it 10 years past the maturity date?
Yes, that's 30 plus
10 years past
10.
the maturity date of the lien.
Yeah, which is
there
30
were
years
40-year loans,
plus 10.
About 5 years ago, they came out with 40-year loans. Did you know that?
Yes, they did, but they did not require us to go back because they figured that the risk was minimum because as many times as property changes hands, it would have been caught, resolved, whatever. So they try to minimize the risk. And we talked about a situation today where a lien was paid and it wasn't even in the county of the property. And I said, what? We don't have to search every county. If you buy a property in Davidson County, you don't search for that person or, anything in any other county. It's that subject property. So rare circumstances by which there was a special request by the lender to be based on the bankruptcy. The lender said, hey, I need you to look at another county, and that's why it was caught. And I was like, what? That's not normal because you don't have to search the county and others around it. You search the county where the property is located. That's the requirement. There was an actual, it was bad. An old law firm that I was in had represented one of the parties in this situation. They didn't close it. represented them. Title companies, there's going to be one or two that's going to be bad. I mean, one or two that don't do things the way they should do it. And there's things called embezzlement. They'll pay off mortgages, pay their monthly payments to get it, trying to rob Peter to pay Paul. This happened on this situation. Person bought a $400,000-ish property in Williamson County. They're excited, elated. About a month later, they get a foreclosure notice from Bank of America. But that's who her loan was with. So she called the title company and said, hey, I got this notice on my front door. They said, well, who's it from? They called the lender. She called her lender. Like, oh, that's us. Something's wrong. It's okay. It just so happened to be the same lender. That's where it kind of got extended. The title company that closed her purchase did not pay off the mortgage for the seller. Didn't get it. They started foreclosure proceedings. So she didn't know what to do. What do I do? Oh my goodness, blah, 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 blah. Well, title claim, lawsuit, they come in, title insurance stepped in, figured it out, paid it off, and went after the title company that didn't pay it off. Come to find out, there was about the sixth one that month they hadn't paid off for whatever reason. So things are going to happen. That woman didn't expect that to happen. She went to closing, she did her part, she did what she was supposed to do, the seller did their part, did what they were supposed to do. Things happen that you don't expect.
So, and I had a situation just in the last month that happened, and I don't know how, I wouldn't know, it worked out, but I wouldn't have known what to tell them. Okay, so when my buyers refinance a loan, and they pay for a title policy, then the title company went out of business and left the state of Tennessee. And it was a year they closed in May, so it's been 11 months. And all of a sudden, the investor says, hey, we don't have a final title policy. So were my buyers, would they have had to bought another policy?
Go the underwriter.
I did.
Yeah, they should have provided one.
They did.
Yeah.
But what if she hadn't sent the money into that? What if she absconded with the money?
That probably happened.
Oh, okay, so the underwriter still made good. Okay.
Yeah. They're on the line. Then it's up to them to get indemnified.
Okay.
Yeah. And we talked a lot about indemnification, and a lot of the large underwriters out there do have that to where they look for indemnification. I mean, that's the whole thing about a title insurance company. I work for one. We may have a valid claim, and in my situations on examples that I was telling you about, what I observe as a claims counsel, then after we pay that claim, we look to get indemnified. Every insurance company does, whether it's a car wreck. Okay, I'm going to pay this, but who do I get indemnification from? That's fair. That's every insurance type of company that looks to try to get reimbursed, indemnified. Well, I gave you a teaser last week about some pitfalls to look for, things that just aren't insurable. And this comes to pass a lot of times when you look at investment property. This comes up about every time on investment property, this type of issue. And I said it has to do with property taxes. You think tax sales are insurable? Somebody doesn't pay their taxes? County takes them back, clerk and master sells them. You think those types of deals, if you go to try to sell that's insurable?
Not right away.
That's right. The length of time is used to be 20 years. And I said, good Lord, that's a long time. We got, what? Come on now. We got to do something about that. Then it went to 10 years. Most underwriters will insure a tax sale after 10 years, usually. They look at each file differently, but usually it's around 10 years. Well, what can you do in the meantime to make it insurable? Well, you can either do a quiet title action. That costs some money and time, but it can be done. Or you can, once you look at your title search and your title person looks at it and says, okay, you've got to get warranty deeds from all these other people that potentially have interest conveyed over to you. They clear everything up, and then it could be insured. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. And the reason is because if we're going to tell an owner, you've got good title, and we're going to stand behind you. And then that person who's been in a coma for 3 years and didn't pay their taxes comes back up and goes, oh my gosh, I just got out of a coma. this is a little bit of an exaggeration. I need to pay all my bills. I need to get that, and they pay all that. Well, yeah, they could redeem it. And there's a policy says you're the owner. That's why underwriters don't do it. Because of the possibility of redemption, paying all those back taxes and everything like that. I use a coma because somebody told me that a long time ago, and I said, that could happen, I guess. But, somehow they win the lottery, they wake up from a coma, or the family they'll let them borrow the money, and they pay all those back taxes. Boom, bada boom. Isn't that what the commercial says? Big bada boom. Yeah. Hello. So we got to be careful. Tax sales generally are uninsurable, but there's ways that you can, but it is not really cost effective a lot of times, sometimes, and it takes some time. So be aware of that. So if you do a preliminary search and say, I'm looking at buying this investment property, tax sale, and we got some talking to do. So just be aware of that. That could be a pitfall and possibly uninsurable. We got to look at marital interest. We talk about marriage. A lot of people don't understand marital interest. But wait a minute. John Doe owned that property just in his name. Well, that's right. Marital interest is a gray area. So you got to be on the lookout for a pitfall for a lurking spouse. Male or female, doesn't matter. Because if they ever lived in that property, one day, as their primary residence, they have that mystical, alluring, gray mist area of marital interest. And as a title person, we have to make sure we account for everybody. I don't know how many times I've asked people, setting up files, hey, are you married? You asking me out? No. I'm asking to make sure that I've accounted for anybody that could possibly be out there lurking that could mess up this deal. So that's a pitfall. You got to think about marital interest. You got to think about marital status. Now, if it's pure investment property, I always tell people, if John Doe buys a piece of property and it's purely investment property, never spent one day in there and he's married, he can attest to that. We can, show proof that they never did. He owned the house over there on Fuel Road. Okay. Then we'll put a simple sentence on there that this is not the property of the grantor, never has been in the past nor his spouse. And he can sell it without the spouse's signature. Well, we always like the spouse to come and sign. It always closes that door, locks that door for any potential interest. But if we can make sure of that and it's investment property, we're good. It's not the same on a refi for an investor. If you refi a piece of property, then it could become your home. Well, how could that ever happen? Well, we lose a lot of your property. Something goes bad, economy goes down. Oh, gee, got to move out of Hill, got to go over here to Crossroad. Then if you're married, you're going to bring that spouse with you. Guess what? It becomes their home. Here comes that great mist. So we always have to account for that. That's a pitfall. Got to be careful of that. Death. Death and taxes, right? I had a cousin of mine back home. As soon as his dad died, he thought he could sell the property. The next day. What are you doing? What are you doing? Well, I'm the only child, and my mom passed away, 5 years prior. Well, okay. But you got to have time, according to, if you're going to sell the property, you got to do certain things to make sure that you're giving good title. I mean, there's a lot of things you got to look at. Was there a will? Because you can disinherit a child, not an adopted child, but you possibly can disinherit a child. You can't disinherit a spouse.
You can't disinherit an adopted child?
No. There's legal proceedings for that. If you're going to take on the responsibility, the thought process was when they were establishing that, if you're going to take on the responsibility and take on and actually go through the whole legal procedures to adopt a child, that's right. Natural child, you can disinherit them. You cannot disinherit a spouse.
Because a lot of times it's accident.
So be careful. There's situations like that. People don't know that.
I did not know.
Yes. Yep.
I'm adopted, so that explains a lot.
Boom!
That explains a lot of my brother.
Yeah, I've got a friend of mine who's adopted 2 children, and I told her, just be made aware. She's, yeah, they know me. Yeah, I know. So she knows. So if you have debt, there are certain things that as a title company we have to do. We have to look and say, hey, is there a will? We're not trying to be nosy. We're trying to close the door from anybody coming and knocking on your door, or Aunt Bertha coming saying, she left me this in her will 10 years ago. Uh-oh. Or that minor, or that child that was put in the hospital back when he was 3 or 4 years old. Somebody found, somebody had it that was unraveled and found, and somebody, claimed, somebody was claimed to it. I don't know how that happened, but it can happen. We got to make sure. Close the door, make sure we protect everybody, and lock it. That's my job, to make sure. We have to look nowadays, see if they're on 10 care. Got to get 10 care release.
How's that? So, any age? I know we run into it more often if they're elderly people.
They tell us to get it every time, because there's sometimes that there's situations where younger people with kids that's not married can have certain, So they say do it on everybody. Yeah.
Does that adoption go past a legal age?
I do believe so.
That's what I was thinking.
I do believe so. Yeah. It's hard to unravel. You can't unravel that.
So 10 care would be if there was a Medicare claim on the property, is that what you're saying?
No, if anybody, it doesn't matter who, it doesn't matter. We got to get a 10 care release. I had to get one of my mom when she died. I knew she wasn't on 10
What
care.
will 10 care do? Oh, we have to get a 10 care release on everybody, every human being. Oh.
When they die, right. Now, if it's been a certain amount of time that's passed, 10 years, 10 care have already done something by then. So we have to look at when they died, get a death certificate. When did they die? Okay, were they married at the time? We got tons of questions. Got to close that door. Were they married? How many kids did they have? How many adopted kids did they have? Were they on 10 care? Was there a will? Was there not? So, a lot of times we tell people we're not trying to be nosy. But we have to have this information to make sure we clear everything if you're going to sell that property to that buyer. And they usually cooperate. They usually give us the documents, or they tell us, hey, we've hired a probate attorney, so we call them and get all the information from them. I had one recently where the probate attorney tried to say that 7 heirs that were listed in the will didn't have a sign. What? Oh yeah, Article 2, Section 5, Paragraph 2CA says this. I said, that has nothing to do with this property. That has nothing to do with what you just said. All of them showed up sign. And I called my, and argue. I said, fine. Tell you what, call my underwriter. The underwriter was laughing so hard they wanted to know who that probate attorney was because they wanted to put him on a list. They should have known better. They were actually listed in the will to inherit. So you gotta be careful. So death, a lot of times people do probate for investment properties. It's a great thing to do. There's just a few more steps that we've got to do to make sure. When did they die? Need a death certificate. Were they married? How many kids did they have? And it's okay for you to ask those questions because you want to make sure if you're the investor buying the house, or if you're the buyer, or you have a buyer, if you're an agent representing that, you want to make sure. Number one, you want to make sure whoever signs that contract, it's a good contract. You want to make sure. Because Billy Bob could say, oh, my grandmother left me everything, I'll sign it. Guess what? If he didn't, and she disinherited him or didn't leave him anything in the will and he's trying to put a scam on you, he don't have a good contract. He didn't have the power to do it. So ask questions. Pitfall, death. We've talked about unreleased liens. The problem with that, if you have, the good thing about that, let's start with the good thing. The good thing about that is you have a prior policy, and it's an old lien on a prior owner. We talked about the past, how we insure the past. That policy will save you and let you close because it insured it. And I could go against that underwriter and say if something ever happens, that treaty, that indemnification, I'm going to rely on you to make it whole. And they have to honor that. Well, what if you don't have that? Well, what if the underwriter goes out of business? Oh boy, got a problem. Then we got to track down somehow to try to find proof that it was paid. It hadn't matured yet, hadn't expired, so we got a fact proof. We can get creative sometimes with some information like an old settlement statement, a cleared check. It's hard to track down people and getting their social security numbers because with privacy policies these days, calling a lender and saying, hey, yeah, I'd like to see if this old lien has been released. Do you have an account number? Well, no. Their social security number? No, they're not my client. Well, I can't help you. If you don't have something in writing, usually borrower authorization, I can't help you. Uh-oh. So we go tracking down. We look at deeds to see who prepared the deeds, who prepared the deed of trust, to try to put the dots together, try to connect the dots to see who we can call. The title company, hopefully they're still in business, or somebody, they move somewhere or whatever, track them down and say, I need your file. I've got to find proof of this. I got to make sure it was paid because I don't have a prior policy. I don't have any information. So then, we got to make sure that all links, because that's a big risk, like we talked about a while ago. And the worst types of risk on old liens are HELOCs. Oh, guess what? When you pay off a first mortgage, usually there's no future clause or an advance clause in there. You borrow, you pay off. You borrow, you pay off. That accounts just staying open. It's just staying open, waiting for you to come back and borrow some money. On a first mortgage that's closed, once you pay it off, they release the lien, they close the account. It's almost automatic. We always send a payoff letter with our check saying, close it. You get any refunds, here's where you send the refund. On HELOC, it doesn't work that way. If you don't tell them in writing, close the account, pay off the mortgage, release the mortgage, close the account. This has happened. Here's another claim. The seller, a lot of times people don't know any better. Really. I think legitimately they have no clue. They sell that house, they're not even thinking that that second mortgage or that HELOC is attached to that house. Oh, wow. Pay it off, the title company doesn't tell them to close the account. He marks right back to that bank. Yeah, I'll take about $15,000 out of that loan I got with you guys. Bank goes, okay. Here's your money. Uh-oh. They ran out of money. They borrowed right up against that $60,000 second, or however much. Uh-oh, ran out of money. Lost everything, went gambling. Lost everything I had, didn't pay. Here comes that HELOC company, filing the papers for foreclosure. Poor innocent buyer. Every time we have a payoff, every time we pay off a mortgage, we have a payoff letter that we stick behind it. So I don't like wiring. I hate wiring payoffs. A lot of people do. How do you track and tell a lender to close the account on a wire? Hate it. Hate it. Now we put it on there. Some of them require a wire. So if we go, oh man. So we mail it to them. Try to do everything we can to make sure they know to close the account, release the lien, send any refunds out.
You not get a confirmation that they've done it, have them give you a confirmation.
You don't tell them to close the account.
You gotta tell them to do everything, I understand that.
Exactly. I even put on there too, closed account on my wiring instructions. I fill that bad boy up with information. Here's the file number, here's the property address, here's the account number, here's this, here's that, FHA case number, whatever I can put in there and close account. I have something on my wire. They can always say they never got my mail. That's an overnight piece of paper. Not many title companies do that. So, all right, enough about old liens. Whew. How about incompetent people? Uh-oh. Well, if you hear the words, well, my great-grandma is in the nursing home. Uh-oh. Does she have her wherewithal? Does she know who she is? And a lot of times we see somebody in the nursing home, I won't go see them. I'm a notary. I won't go say, hey, Grandma, what's today? Who's president? When's your birthday? What's your favorite color? Where are you? Who's your son? Who's your daughter? If they know what they're doing, I'm good to notarize that document. Now, a lot of people do that. So you got to be thinking about incompetent people.
What about if they have paperwork on file at the nursing home stating that they have dementia.
Problem, they're not competent. Now, a doctor, not many of them, you may have a grandmother or somebody in that hospital that have moments of lucidity. They know who they are and all that kind of stuff. So if you can get them in a moment where they have all their wherewithal, and a doctor, this is from an underwriter, and a doctor says, yes, they had, of course they have papers that says that they have moments of, they don't know who they are, they have the moments of dementia, and they have moments of knowing who they are.
Right.
And you get them on a good day, and they sign that document, and the doctor is willing to put his name on the dotted line to saying that, yes, she or he was good this day. They knew what they were signing. I was there. I'll stand behind. I'm their doctor. Then you're good. How too many doctors do
I was
that?
gonna say,
I've never known one to do that. And I've asked several. Oh,
really too late.
I will put my name on that. I will sign it. The problem is, yeah. Now, if you have a power of attorney signed before that happened, and they were competent then, as long as they're still alive, as long as it's a durable power of attorney, you can use it. Now, I was telling Kathy today, I had somebody ask me recently, oh, we got a power of attorney. Oh, great. You have it recorded? No, but I have the original. Well, we can get it recorded. Okay, well, that's great. You know, blah, blah, blah. Well, they died last month. Well, you can't use the power of attorney. The lady didn't know that. Well, I know power of attorney. I don't understand.
Nobody here.
You can't, right, they're gone. Then it goes to their will, if they have a will, if they don't have a will, who their heirs are, if they're married, didn't care, all kinds of stuff. So, anyway, minors. Had a guy about a year ago wanted to convey property to his 16-year-old daughter. He wanted to convey property to his 16-year-old daughter. He wanted to get it out of his name. Wait a minute, how old is your daughter? She's 16. She just turned 16 and bought her a new car. She's not 18. She's a minor. Are you going to set up some type of guardianship for her? No. Well, then it's stuck with her for 2 years until she becomes of age and she can sign a document. Otherwise, whatever she signs to convey property or mortgage property, it's no good. What? Yeah. So, a lot of people don't know that. They're not thinking. However, I did see something in a title search. I got to show you this. I've never seen this before in my life. Back in the 70s, a minor took title to property for whatever reason. There was some kind of lawsuit where whether or not it was legitimate, her signature before she turned 18 was legitimate, and the judge, I can't believe he did this, the judge said, this minor is mature and smarter than the average minor that I've dealt with. I've interviewed her. I'm allowing it to go through. I've never seen that. I wouldn't say it would ever happen again, but there's a court order of record filed and recorded in the registrar's office in the 70s where a judge allowed a minor to sign because she was mature. Now that's just, you just don't hear that. But, so be aware, I bet that will never happen again, but minors, that's a problem. Here's another one, meth labs. Uh-oh, I got smiles on that one.
Coffee County.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say.
Dixon County.
They put liens on it. Now, you see that, you stay clear. There's a lot going on with that property. Too much to do, too long. It's best to move on unless it's a sweet deal. You lock them up for a too long time to sell you the property later. Meth labs, there are liens out there. They do that. Also, drug houses. They can come and put liens on it. We were about to I got a new order, went to do the search. Here comes that court order. The Attorney General's office had put a lien on the house. It's one of the two I've ever seen of record. So that's another problem.
So you're saying that the owner of the property was involved in the drug trade, so the government.
Drug house, that's right. That's right. He was in jail. Didn't know that either. That's unusual. I had the realtor actually say, hey, will you go to the jail and get a power of attorney signed for me? What? No, we'll have to think about that. No. Bankruptcy. What if an owner's in bankruptcy? Who has control of that property if they're in bankruptcy? That's right, the bankruptcy court. You got to get an order. And there's documents you got to produce. You got to produce contract. You got to all kinds of things, and they've got to give their blessing for them to sell the property. So it's okay to ask questions. That's why I'm giving you all this information on these pitfalls, because you don't want to get locked in and get so excited. There's a lot of equity in this house. We're going to get it and sell it and rehab it. And did you say bankruptcy? So just ask those questions, and you don't have to come out and go, "Are you in bankruptcy?" Talk to them. People, it's amazing how much information people will give you about who they are and their lives and everything, and you're trying to help them, and they see that, so they're going to open up to you. So just go ahead and plow down that road and try to get as much information as you can, because it'll come back and help you, help me, whoever does your title. Another thing to think about, how about a landlocked property? No easement. No, I can't do that. Oh, dear. Had one.
I've got one right now.
Yep. That's a problem. You got to work to try to get ingress and egress. That's the crux. A lot of that title insurance is what they guarantee.
I've got dead relatives on both sides.
You just got nastier when you said
Would the quick search know about ingress and egress?
Not necessarily. The agent on the one that I worked on said something to me about it. I went to the tax maps. Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
They have to sign off the easement when they die. Their heirs have to sign off. And you have to get affidavits of heirship that show that they're the right heirs that are signing off. And you can sue for it. You have an easement given easement by prescription, by right.
Right.
But you don't want to have to sue for it because it costs money.
And time. That's exactly right.
That's Fashion City from Pearly Lane.
With Old Creek, we had one that, the bridge was on the neighbor's property.
His kid named Upchurch, his mom, he was buying it for his mom. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Upchurch. He's big country music too. And,
Oh, yeah.
but then the neighbor came, the neighbor like scared him. Almost like the kid. And we bought it regardless of the easement, but then we had to straight.
Well, you want to be able to get to your property,
It
yes.
used to be called that you couldn't sell a property that didn't have access.
Well, everybody has a right, like he was saying, everybody has a prescriptive use of that property. I mean, somebody can go, aha, gotcha, landlocked, you owe me $1 million to, it's got to be reasonable. It's got to be, it's got to be doable. The law won't allow somebody to hold somebody, I guess I could call it hostage. So there's things that you got to do. Like you said, there's cost involved, there's attorneys involved, there'll be heirs involved, and all kinds of stuff, potentially depending on particular situation. You may have the owners that you deal with, next door that work with you. So that's what you go for. So there's many more. That's just the ones that I came up with quickly in the matter of, blah, 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 blah. So you have all kinds of issues and things that you got to think about up front. We try, like I said, close that door. If you actually think about title insurance, to reduce the risk, we try to close that door and lock it to make sure that you are a good, valid, good faith buyer and the seller has given you good title and that policy protects you. And you get that after closing, keep it in the same place, because if you ever sell the property, within 10 years, you get reissue credit, which is savings up to about 30%. So if you buy and sell property a lot, you get title insurance. The person, if you use them again, they'll have a copy of it, but you could save up to 30%, depending on, and you think 30%, well, if you buy it for $10,000 and you sell it for $100,000, there's not a lot of credit there, but you get some discount based on the coverage that you insured one time within 10 years of at least the $10,000. So it helps you on cost savings. If you buy the policy for your potential buyer, or if they pay for the title insurance, they can still use that policy and they can get the discount. So title insurance, in my opinion, is well worth it. You pay it one time. Homeowners car insurance, like we talk, every year. You pay this premium one time.
So let me ask you a question. On a refinance, if when they purchase the property, they buy an owner's policy, they don't have to keep buying owner's policy?
No, they're still protected. That's a good question.
Okay.
The lender, the reason why you have to buy a new policy for the lender each time you refinance is because the insured's different. Your lender's different. You're paying off this one, well, that policy goes away because it follows that lender. You got a new lender involved, they're protected and they're covered. You pay them off and they go away and you're new one. That's why you have to get a new policy every time that you refinance where the lender requires it. It's because it's a different lender. It's a different insured. But if you have your policy, you also still get the 30% discount, up to 30% discount on your premium. Good question. Any more questions?
Yeah, you haven't talked about trust.
Well, that could be another potential problem too. A lot of times people don't know how to set the property up and invest it correctly. That's usually the number one thing that goes wrong with a trust and property is they say the property, John Doe and Mary Doe conveys it to blah, 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 blah trust. No, it's got to be to the trustee of the trust. That's how that works. It's got to be to the trustee on behalf of the trust. It's got to be a person acting as the trustee or an entity acting as the trustee for the trust. Or it's not, it can be argued it's not a good deed. And it could go both, you could argue both ways, but there's an argument there that the deed has a problem. So if you set it up correctly, according to the trust documents, and as a title company, we have to ask that question too. Okay, the property we see is vested into a trust and you're selling it. We need either your trust documents or at least a summary of your trust. And if you have an attorney that prepares the trust, they usually do both. They do the full, long, 50-page, 75-page trust, depending on your particular situation with your money and your taxes and all kinds of stuff. So it all depends on that. Or they can prepare what they call a trust summary, and they usually do that for the larger ones. The name of the trust, when it was established, who the trustees are, who the beneficiaries are. It's a synopsis. And a title company usually can use that as long as the information is there that we need of who's the trustee, who can actually act on behalf of the trust. So, good question. Should put that.
I've been using them since 1982 is the reason I wanted.
It's a great tool.
A lot of title companies won't fool with it to go to the title company.
They will look at your trust and, what?
I've got one right now in a government loan, and it's entitled to the trust. I've been told several times it has to be the trustee. Federal government didn't think so.
Well, it does.
Neither did Bank of America. About I've had up to $1 million worth of scattered over time in trust that was owned by the trust. A lot of people said they can't do it that way, so I don't argue with them. Let's go somewhere else.
If you have a trustee act on behalf of the trust and it's vested properly.
I'm the trustee of the property.
I have to look at that. That's really bizarre.
I know.
I like to look at. I love to look at crazy situations.
Title company if you want to look at it.
Any more questions? I have thoroughly enjoyed talking about something I love and I'm passionate about. I hope I haven't been too boring. Title can be boring, but think of this. When you think of title, think of Tish, Title, telling an interesting tale about land and estates. That's title in a nutshell. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Tish. I do have an interesting, but we're going to talk about that later. I got some land in Florida, and it's 9 years, 4 months into a lien. So I'm waiting for another 7 months for it to go away.
Oh,
Yeah.
the
Quietly.
expiration?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, that's what we do here. We open up doors and open up questions and give you something to think about when you are buying real estate, because all these things will cost you a lot of money if you make a mistake. So I'm going to bring up my partner, Steve Chazen. He's going to finish this out tonight. And I thank you for welcoming Tish and Steve Chazen.
Yeah, so some of the takeaways, obviously, title is an issue that everybody's got to think about. If you're investing, I think
most of us are either playing with it or doing something with it.
You've got to have a system in place. Really, you got to have a network of professionals, people that you know that are going to look at this and understand the things that you may or may not know. I know you generally use Athens Title, James, you, and I do a lot of stuff myself, but I make some phone calls on the heavy stuff. When we buy at auctions, a lot of times we do one-owner searches, and they can be problematic. I can say that we'll have, we picked up things before. You remember that condo? It had sold 5 times. The last time there was an unreleased developer's lien, and it was just on the 5 condos. And some of them had released it, and some hadn't. This particular condo had sold numerous times without a properly released developer's lien in the original development back in the 90s. Yeah, lots of little issues. These the things that you can run into. Obviously, the most common title problem, is an unreleased lien. That happens quite a bit, where a defunct title company no longer in business. You can't chase them down. There's a company out there called Acquire. They generally charge $300 to chase down a lot of these unreleased liens. They'll go back and find the chain. I went through one of these recently from a credit card, but it was a credit card that was actually a home equity line, and it was from $500 from 1996. And this bank, we're dealing with a guy that's putting $50,000 down, an 800 credit score on a $165,000 purchase, and the bank didn't want to give him the loan because this $500 unreleased credit card, and the title company was telling the bank, "We are insuring over this. It's not a problem." And the bank still didn't want to do it.
Is that the guy you sent to me?
Yeah, that was
You still haven't closed that?
No, we closed it. The bank finally got their head out of their backside and got the deal done. The easement issue, something to keep in mind. When we buy properties, it's a good habit to look at the legal description on the deed of trust. We're going through a really interesting one right now that fortunately is going to work out in our favor, where I might have mentioned this briefly last week. When they put these things together, the people doing the process, the loans, they're not attorneys. So they'll go back and they'll cut and paste and put stuff together, and the legal descriptions have pieces in them that are important. And so you have, sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't identify parcel numbers. They don't have to be a sufficient legal description. But they have they'll have a physical description. And when we're dealing with the old meets and bounds methods, if you're talking about poles and chains, lenders these days oftentimes will require that you have a survey done that has the appropriate measurements according to degrees and direction, as opposed to the old, meets and bounds surveys. I forget what's the name of it. It's not meets and bounds. The new one is anyway, I forget the name of it off the top of my head. These legal descriptions, so they have a physical description, and then they have what we call a derivation clause, which references the previous transaction. There's a deed reference to the previous transaction. So what happens oftentimes is there will be parcels that are split off. And so you have something that we call a less than accept. And then you have an original physical description, which is actually the most important governing component of the legal description, is that physical part. But if you forget the less than accept, well, guess what? You just encumbered everything else that didn't split off.
That somebody else owns.
That is correct. And it's absolutely correct. It doesn't,
Sometimes too, if you run across them where, meets and bounds, you start here, go all the way around, supposed to come back. Occasionally, they do what you're talking about, they leave out a thing, and it won't close.
Yeah. Oh,
They left out a whole line, the whole side.
So there's all kinds of things you can get into. When we refer to these title searches, we have a one owner search that we'll do when we're looking at properties when we're going to auction. Generally, we kind of say, okay, the title company has done it before us, but it doesn't, we roll the dice if you take some risk of this. That's just part of it. I'm trying to think. We really haven't had one that's come up and bid us that I remember that was just nasty. I think one of the nastiest things you can run into would be the air, the missing air. Family squabbles are the worst possible thing, and when you've had one and you deal with people that generally these are the kind of people that if there was something they were going to get free, like that's probably the most they ever had of anything, and getting it for free seems to be really important to them. More like the time and energy they expend into getting something for free, that they can take that and put it creatively into actually like making something of themselves and doing it the right way. But some people just have a fascination with trying to like inherit something or get something that they feel like it's a win. I don't know. So you can get into some title issues with that. So the main thing is you've got to surround yourself with professionals who know what they're talking about. And if you're going to do a deal, like depending on where you are in the deal stage, you need to go and have a reference point. The reference point needs to give you affirmative information. So I am circling back with all of this. This is why we do Green, okay? So we're here to build a community. Green is here to build mentor-based relationships. We're here. When you join our company, you can ask us a question anytime. We've done this bunches and bunches and bunches of times before. So if you're here to learn about real estate and you're serious about it, then we encourage you to join the company. We have online training with people who are extremely successful. It's $99.97. Business Center is moving, just so you guys know, to own a green business will cost $19.97 a month. I don't know where you can start a business for that, where virtually no risk or inventory. Our education is $99.97. And then this is a network marketing company. So we have a binary system. I can go into this. But basically, if you bring someone into the business, you make money on every single person that they bring in. And for every one you have on each side, $13.45 a month in residual income. So you brought one person in, and they brought two in, just in this particular scenario, and these things grow over the course of years. But just if you had some friends that wanted to join, this particular scenario is 3 people on each side, so that'd be $40.25 a month, and that's money in your pocket. So this is a money-making opportunity. These things can grow to thousands and thousands of people. People can become very wealthy in network marketing company. There's another company, just to let you guys know, that started up not too long ago. It's doing something similar, but it's in the Forex space. It's the whole kind of flashy cryptocurrency. They got 50,000 people in there now. If you had 50,000 person in a green downline, you'd be making about $10 million a year. Just to kind of show you how these companies take off. They really
do happen, and this one really will happen. I just flew to Dallas and met with a gentleman who helped build a $1 billion company, who actually does all of the sales training for that company. And he's helping us with some of our launching, just the vision and so forth. For those of you who have been here, we will have upgraded products. You may be familiar with our brand called, may or may not be, it's called Mentor with Millionaires. And so we will have the ability for you guys to make more money through more intense training with some of our highly skilled professionals getting into serious coaching. So price point will be there. We want to have an entry-level price point where anyone can come in and own a business and can refer their friends to it. But we also want to have some higher ticket items that's reasonable for this market in this space, but something that you guys can make money on. But ultimately, the goal of the company is very simple. We're here to create millionaire mentors, and we're here to sort of foster education and passion about real estate. That's what we do. And in this particular environment, this format, we build business relationships. Kathy was in today. I've worked with her a couple of times. She's probably going to work with Irina, and those two go out and they're going to do some bird dogging. They're going to look at some pre-foreclosures. Les has been working with people doing the pre-foreclosure stuff. I think Nick's kind of absorbing, thinking, where is he going to make his, a couple of investment plays? And, that's what you do. This is a systematic process. Doesn't happen overnight. So when you're serious about the learning side, you come and you show up with these things, and then eventually, you build the relationships. It's not the stuff they taught you in school. You don't learn entrepreneurship in a book. Okay, it's an art form. It's done through experience. It's an interpersonal connection. Okay, you learn how to trade with people. You learn what things are worth. That is not something that's entirely logical or purely intuitive. It's something that you have to start trading. It's something that you have to engage. There's a responsibility for yourself. A lot of people kick the tires. They're like, okay, maybe this looks like fun. Maybe I'll try it. Then some people, they get the bug. They come back. And then we've got our people that, kind of have been with us for a while, and they get it, they see it, and they understand that this is important. So anyway, I know we've got a lot of members here. Yes.
We have a new guest here.
Yeah, and introduce yourself. I think you've been here before. Oh, I thought you had been here. Okay. And your name is?
Sharif.
And who invited you?
Lloyd Carr.
Okay. So Lloyd has been a really active member with us, and he's, I think he'll tell you Lloyd has plugged in the right way, and he's worked quite a bit with Les, and then so he's gone out and he's hustled and put himself in the path of some pretty good deals.
Irina and Kathy are going out with Lloyd this Saturday, right? We're not.
I'm going with Lloyd in the morning, and I'm going with Irene in the afternoon.
Wow.
And Lloyd's actually making money with them. he's actually a part of that, but that's not the entire part of this. So what we do here is free. You're welcome anytime. We want as many people to come here. John's not a member yet, but he's coming on eventually. We don't give him too much of a hard time.
We'll bring about 20 with me, but anyway.
Yeah, that's fine.
Next week we have Daniel Perry going to talk about trusts.
Okay, yes, we do have someone talking about trust next week, which is interesting. I know trusts are interesting. A lot of people use trust. Obviously, it's for privacy and tax avoidance. And some people do it in different ways for privacy and tax avoidance.
If you do it in time, it really helps save some of the problems you're talking about. Like somebody that might be getting sick, get the property in a trust before they do get sick.
Yeah, and that's it's good to talk to your financial planner about something like that, and also there are certain things that can be problematic. Some lenders it brings up a red flag for some government-backed loans. They're trying to sell a property that's in a trust.
I've never had a problem with a lender at all. Just the title companies don't want to do it.
So some lenders have problems with it.
Yeah, there probably is. But I just haven't.
And it's also it doesn't protect you. So in other words, they can sue you. They can sue the beneficiary through the trust. It's not like an LLC that
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to do, but yeah, they can't.
Well, it's not it doesn't give you that veil of protection that the LLC done properly does. But it's still now one thing that's useful about the trust is it's easy to convey its interest. You can simply change the beneficiary, change the beneficial interest, and you can convey the beneficial interest. So, for example, if you purchase property that has a tax lien, you can convey that beneficial interest. We can buy property at auction that has normally a 120-day redemption period, and we can convey that beneficial interest without while that clock is still ticking. We can flip a property while it's got a tax lien on it. If we deed it into trust. So that's a little bit of a title thing also.
The beauty of it is it's basically a statement.
Yes, that's right.
A memorandum of.
That's right. Yeah.
They don't know how much, they don't know what's in it, they don't know who the beneficiary is.
Which is what we could do on that one down there. But it's just that you could sell it to a wholesaler that went down in Midville.